Jeff Peterson from Heartland Farm Partners is our corn and soybean market analyst this week. Condition ratings for both crops across the nation held relatively steady, according to the latest USDA progress report. In Nebraska, 10% of soybeans are now dropping leaves, 7 points ahead of the state's 5-year average, but only 1% of the corn crop is mature, 7 points behind the average. We talked with Jeff Friday morning and started by asking for his thoughts on current conditions.
You know, it's a variable year across the nation, but what we look at nationally first is 68% good to excellent. That's down from 69% on, and this is for corn, Jeff. That does compare those. We look back, 74% is where we were at last year, so we are down. As we look at Nebraska, though, Nebraska's faring a little better on corn. We're sitting at 77% good to excellent. That's unchanged from last week, but that does compare to 71% last year, so crops overall are looking a little better.
And that conversation naturally rolls into next week, Jeff, for Friday's USDA report.
Yes, it does. And you know, as we look at next week's report, as we look into it, there's a few things I think we want to understand about the report. This time of year, NASA's taken a look at really their yields very strongly. And this week will be a little different when they release that report, or actually next week. They're going to spend more time looking objectively at what the corn looks like. They did the stock counts and the ear counts last month. Now this month they'll be focusing much more on the ear, measuring it up and trying to figure out what the actual weight is. What's interesting from last month, though, they brought the ear weight in at 0.34 pounds. We don't think it's going to stay there. That's the same weight as what it was last year. We just don't think the ears are as heavy as they were last year. So overall, as you look at the report, we think the yield from USDA's perspective is going to be a little lower. Could be a half to maybe as much as a bushel lower than what it was in the August report on the corn side.
And on the soybean side, do you expect the same type of reduction?
No, I don't. Not on the soybean side. And the main reason, Jeff, is just really too early. You know, there's still a lot of pods filling and blooming going on yet, so we probably expect to see the soybean yield pretty much unchanged.
With where we're at in prices now, is this safe to say we're at a low, or can we at least hopefully say we're close to a low?
Boy, you want the million-dollar question today, don't you? You know, and as we start digging through it, if we look back in the August report when it came out, it caused corn to put in a low of 357.5. And at that time, with that yield, that was a surprise. We think the yield from USDA goes lower from here. So we are starting to get very much more comfortable if the yields stay as we think they are, that we could have put in a harvest low there. Now that doesn't mean we won't go down and try that level again, but I think that very comfortably could be said it could be a low.
And in beans?
On the beans, I think 855, which was put in on August 24th. There is a chance bean yields could creep a little higher. We've had some finishing conditions, but overall I'd say we're getting close to a low there also. That level probably will be retried yet, but I don't think it'll necessarily be taken out.
Okay, both of those being said then, right now, immediately you wouldn't say there's any selling options, but where are they in the future?
Yeah, exactly. So for those bushels that you have to take into at harvest time and you have no choice but to sell them, you know, no storage options, I'd say if we have any little bounce here, you do need to go ahead and sell those. But if you can store bushels on both the corn and bean side, I'd say go ahead and tuck them away, and there'll be a better pricing opportunity down the road later. Now for those individuals that have done hedge to arrives, you know, they've got a basis decision to make here. From the basis side, it's all going to be a function of how this crop finishes and also what the weather looks like. Our concern would be with El Niños, we might have a little bit wetter conditions than normal during harvest. We also think this crop's a little bit behind in Nebraska. As a result, I'd say keep a close eye on basis. I think we could see a little bit of firming yet before it would widen out. Now, if the crop comes off very slow, there's a chance it may not widen out from these levels, and that'd be both on the corn and the bean side.
So right now we're just being patient for both this year, 2015 and 2016?
Yeah, that'd be the case.
All right, let's talk about demand. Tell me where ethanol is right now.
Yeah, ethanol, you know what? Ethanol came in with 948,000 barrels. That compared to 952,000 on average from the week before. That was down about 0.4%. But if we look overall, that's still 2.9% higher than it would have been a year ago. Year-to-date numbers for the crop year were up about 4.5% year-to-date. USDA only has us up 1.3%, so we probably will need to see the ethanol demand number increased in future reports.
Is that margin comfortable enough with where oil and gasoline are?
That's a great question. Actually, for the week, we've actually seen the margins on ethanol increase. We take a look at the corn side, corn's down about 14 cents for the week. As we look over to the ethanol side on the board, it's up about 9 cents because we had a little bounce on the crude side. We know distillers grains off a little bit. Margins would be up about 18 cents a bushel equivalent. So depending on your plant and where you're at, I'd say you're looking back, you're back in the black making some money again at most all the facilities, which is good as we head into the harvest time.
All right, finally, exports. How much help are both corn and soybeans getting from the export scene?
You know what, up until now I'd said it's been a headwind and it hasn't been helping us at all, Jeff. But actually starting, a couple weeks ago on the soybean side, we've seen those exports start to pick up. What we're really trying to figure out right now is that have we missed demand or is the buyers just coming in slower? And I kind of think it's a mixture of both. We know we have missed a little bit of demand on the soybean side. The corn side, I'd say the jury's still out yet, and I think we can look to see some better export numbers in the future. But it is an area that we're going to have to keep very close attention to.